So we realized, oh crap, Chris was with us. He had been walking ahead of us because he walks at a different pace than everyone. He didn't want, people to be waiting on him or be worried. He's a considerate folk. And
yeah, so we were pissing ourselves and shitting ourselves. And then we decided, I look at Gem, again, I'm observing her, which is the entire point of this saga. And I'm like, uh-oh, she's worried, but she's like trying to keep it cool. She's like, it's okay. We're going to get Chris and then other Chris, because that's another thing. We have multiple Chris's around us.
Yes, but I think we found our final Chris.
Yeah,
in fact, I told Chris, I was like, if we meet another Chris, and I'm so sorry, Chris is out there.
Sorry.
We are full.
Yeah, we're full of Chris's.
Not one more Chris.
Yeah.
We have beardless Chris, bearded Chris,
construction Chris, construction Chris.
Construction Chris. How many construction Chris's do you know about?
Cousin Chris.
Yes, construction Chris. I feel like there's another one around that we're not remembering.
I'm sure.
If there is, I'm sorry. Just a lot of Chris's.
Yes, we are full of Chris High. Anyway, so yeah, we were shitting ourselves, and then we took a collective pause in the beaming sun. So at that point, when we realized Chris is missing.
Yeah.
Construction Chris, who's an all-star.
Yeah, total all-star.
Literally.
I think he was like MVP
of Camp Jam.
Of Camp Jam.
Oh, yeah. Of course. I think
most
anybody
valuable player, like most loved.
Oh yeah, anybody would say that.
Yeah.
Even over me, even over you, honestly. No offense.
By far. I mean, I practically ruined the trip.
No. But anyway, so Construction Chris is like, all right, I'm going to find Chris. I'm going back to get Chris. Remember, guys, in retrospect, at this point, not only is one person splitting off from the group bad, now you have a second person splitting off, and they're going to look for the first person. So best case scenario, if they find each other, which is like, whoa, at that point, I got to tell you, I didn't have a good feeling about that. So as I said, as you can imagine, one person splitting off is bad. Now 2 people are split off, and we're there. Not to mention that at this point, Jem is trying to, as I mentioned, keep morale high and be the exciter and keep everybody relaxed because we were scared. But meanwhile, she's the first one waking up at camp, making everybody food, fucking making sure everything is good. Like she was running on E, and she was making sure she was fueling everybody else. And so we are pausing there for a moment, and became 2 moments, 3 moments. We're probably there 15 minutes. That's another thing. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a concept of time or anything like that, which is great, but also, unique to our main experiences. And all of a sudden we hear, keep walking. And it was Chris.
From the distance.
And I'm like, oh Chris. My God, my heart just like relaxed for a second. And I was like, thank goodness that, and for a moment I was like, oh my God, but now we lost Construction Chris, but thank goodness they were together.
They found each other.
So then in that moment, Jem, I saw her and she's like, okay, finally we got everybody. We're almost at the spring. We got it. We walked almost a little bit more, and then we arrived. And when we arrived, that we were finally at the mouth of the entrance, that we're ready to go, that we're all tying up or getting organized. Literally, I mean, from my experience, you stepped in the water. And when you finally got in the float, we're all tied up, we're ready to go. I look over at you and I'm like, uh-oh. Because I think in that moment, when your brain finally relaxed and you were like, oh, I made it to the destination. Everybody's here. Everybody's okay. Your body went, oh, no, honey. Like, listen to me. You overworked me. Now you're going to relax your brain. Listen to what I've got to say to you. Because in that moment, Jem, your body completely shut down. I feel like your ears started ringing. That's the moment your temperature started regulating. You turned completely white. You were wet from the spring, but you were hot from the outside. You hadn't eaten. You hadn't slept. You hadn't drank water. It all hit you all at once. And everybody is like, woohoo, we're in the spring. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh my God. And of course, in that moment,
a couple people noticed. A couple people were like, Jem.
Yeah, but
it started outside. It started exactly when we got to the spring.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. I don't feel good.
Yeah.
I didn't feel good at all. And I felt like, oh shit, I'm overheating.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought, wow, I need to get in the spring and like cool off. But the thing is that the spring is like 70 degrees, which sounds like it's not that cold for those of you listening if you haven't been in 70-degree water, because you're probably like I was, which is My house is around 70 degrees. You know, I keep the AC at 70 degrees. I can totally withstand that. No. No, you can't. 70-degree air is not the same as 70-degree water. 70-degree water is like a cold plunge.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what it is happened in that moment. I do think, after talking to my sister who's a nurse, and you know, people who know stuff, I guess, who seem to be well versed in the lingo, it does seem like out of a couple of things that happened to me that made up this perfect storm, one of the things that I suffered was a heat stroke. But I also felt, when I finally got in the spring, like I completely shocked my body. And I was immediately, I tried to sit, I was freezing, and I tried to sit in my floaty. And I know that my ears started ringing because I don't know if you remember, I covered them.
No, literally, she was sitting, like looking down, covering her ears, just like trying to.
I was meditating. I was trying to focus on my breathing.
Yeah, but you were trying not to pass out.
Literally trying not to pass out. And I could feel like my head tingling. I could feel like just everything
like what happened to me
fast,
in New York. Yeah.
Just bad. And I think that what started happening is that my body, if I could explain it anyway, it felt like I was boiling from the inside out and freezing from the outside in. And I don't think that my body knew what to regulate first. Whether it was my shivering body and my freezing cold bathing suit.
Or you hadn't eaten enough, and you hadn't drank enough water, and you hadn't slept.
So that was another thing. I'm almost certain, because I felt it before, that my blood sugar dropped.
Oh, absolutely.
And at some point, I was aware of what was going on around me. And I was overcome on top of everything by just like an anxious feeling of feeling like I was fucking ruining the trip. And I was worried about you guys. I was worried about my people, my family, my friends, who had some people cross multiple state lines to be there for me that weekend. And I was there fucking my sister made a funny joke. You already named it. No, it was actually Josh. Josh made a funny joke. You already named it Camp Gem. You needed it to be more about you. You know, here I am getting super, super sick, and just like what a damper on everybody's time.
Yeah, but then, you know, that also began my nightmare, because from that moment on, you made it very clear, like, look, I want them to have fun, but I'm not okay. So at that point, we had to break off.
Well, I tried to feel better, and I started to feel nauseous. And I remember you had said to one of our friends, like signaled to her to kind of like, without letting everybody know, but like you started to get worried. I remember you saying, no, I'm starting to get worried. And that started to get me almost like more anxious, because I already wasn't feeling bad, and I was hearing you say vocally, and other people hearing you, you know, like that you weren't, which you had every reason to be. And then when I remember I got up out of the water, and I started walking directly to the bathroom, which I didn't know where it was. And I remember how bright the sun was shining, because I felt even sensitive to the light around me. And I darted immediately for the direction that I hoped the bathroom was in, which I ended up being right. And I knew you were following behind me. And I didn't even make it inside the bathroom. I just went to the back and started puking immediately.
She decided to puke next to the septic tank.
Well, I didn't know it was a septic tank. To be fair, I have really bad allergies. I can't smell very much. I didn't know what that was. No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But at that point, I knew what was going down. I immediately was like, all right, we're switching into another zone here. And I was like, I knew we needed to get to camp, but also like, what's at camp? You know, it's not like it's your house. It's not like I have AC. At that moment already, I was like, what the hell are we going to do?
Well, so the part that I don't think I ever told you was, I thought we had the keys.
Yeah, that was another thing.
So remember we went to the bathroom. We were sitting in one of the bathrooms, all our bathhouses as well. And I remember as I was pushing open, because you know my brain is photographic, my memory is photographic. And I remember pushing open the door and reading a sign in paper that was like, no hot water.
Yeah.
Because I guess that bathhouse didn't have hot water.
Yep.
And we were sitting in one of the stall showers, and I was starting to feel that I was not feeling good. And the thing is, I've had these weird little spells before. You've been there for some of them. It's happened to me when I've been at concerts or like a music festival where it's hot or like there's a lot of people.
There's always heat involved.
Yeah. So I started to realize that this was not one of those moments, that this was worse. This was like way worse. And that I wasn't going to be able to make it back the spring. Because usually when it's happened to me before, I tend to recuperate rather quickly. I'll take like 10, 15 minutes maybe, but then I'm kind of back to normal. You know, I get sensation in my appendages again and the ringing stops, whatever. And that's when I told you to go get my stuff. And remember the stuff that I told you to grab. It was the dry box that was attached to the dry bag. And I thought, because I had seen James at camp with both of the keys, I thought that he had put the keys to the van and the truck in our bag. And the rest of them were in the other dry bag.
Well, plot twist, all the keys were in another dry bag. And that's a big deal because our car is really the only lifeline.
Well, that's what I was, in my head, that's what I was envisioning. We would get to camp. And if I couldn't get better, we would put me in a car and either go to the main building of the Springs or, you know, a hospital, whatever.
Yeah. No, yeah. But that didn't happen, and we didn't realize until it was too late, and we had already sent everybody else down the river like, it's fine, everything's great, we're going to go back to camp and chill. Meanwhile, I'm freaking out.
It took all of my battery to do that.
Yeah, I know it was hard for you because, like I said, the entire moment that you envisioned on the trip was going down the river with everybody.
No, well, and I don't say it because of that. I say it because I was literally that ill.
Oh, yeah, to even walk over there. Yeah.
And I literally, I think I like pulled from every cell in my body whatever little bit of energy I had left. And I knew that if I sent you over there, and I knew you were worried, and you're not that great of a liar, and you were meant to tell them to go down the river without me, they might not believe you. They might be worried. They might not enjoy themselves. And I just kept worrying about that. I kept worrying that they weren't enjoying themselves. So I was like, all right, well, get out there, make it quick, don't throw up, or they'll know you're lying. And I remember I was like, let me walk as straight as possible to them and just smile and seem as convincing as possible.
And you were, and they were worried, but ultimately they ended up going, which is when we realized that we didn't have the keys.
Yeah.
And then we're at the end of the damn park. How do we get back to the camp at the start when we don't have keys? We don't have a car. We literally were like,
there was no way I could walk.
We need a ride back now.
Launching.